Welcome back. Yesterday, President Obama announced a very ambitious gun control agenda he's pushing through using executive action. The plan includes expanding background checks and trying to close gun show loopholes. So now what? GOP presidential candidate and Senator Rand Paul joins me now. Welcome back, Senator.
Thanks for having me.
So this is clearly unconstitutional, but from your point of view, why is President Obama's executive action so bad?
Well, I think we have to have a fundamental understanding of where laws are supposed to come from. They're supposed to come from Congress, and this is very
explicit. What the Constitution says.
This is very explicit.
Yeah.
But you know, really since 2010, President Obama has been frustrated. He can't get his way. When he first came into office, he had both the House and the Senate, and he got whatever he wanted for about 2 years. But since 2010, he says he's got his pen, he's got his phone, he'll do what he wants.
Yeah.
But that's not what our founders intended, and so we need to force him to obey the law. But it's not just this. He's done it on immigration. He's also done it with war authority as well. We've been at war in the Middle East for over a year now.
Yeah.
And there's been no declaration of war, no vote in Congress. So this is a big, big problem. Not only the things he's doing bad, but the precedent it sets. The precedent is for government run by one person.
Yeah.
That's very dangerous.
No, it's not an empirical presidency. And it's not fair. It's not right. It's certainly not constitutional. So what are you going to do about it?
We've introduced legislation to stop him, to say that his executive order would not be mandatory but would be advisory.
Yeah.
Our bill would also take away funding, so we wouldn't fund the executive order. But here's the rub. We would have to get 60 votes in the Senate, which would be 6 Democrats and all the Republicans, but then he would have to sign it. So the rebuke that I want to give to him would have to be signed by him.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely to pass. How could we have stopped him? Well, if we didn't pass that god-awful spending bill, the $1.1 trillion spending bill, 2,242 pages that no one read, when that expires, we could stop him. But guess what? They let it go all the way through the rest of his term.
Yeah.
We gave up every bit of the power of the purse when we passed that last bill. We really don't have the power right now to stop him. There'll be some kind of vote, maybe a show vote. It will lose, and we'll move on, and he'll get his way.
All right, well, let's focus on the presidency a little bit. You are running for president. One of the big debates is coming up next week right here on Fox Business Network. It's going to be next Thursday. What do you plan on doing differently in this debate that so far you feel you haven't done in some of the past GOP debates?
We actually think we've been doing pretty well in the
I think you've done well the last two.
Yeah.
The last one especially, you made some really, really good points that I think hit.
It takes a while to get your message out when you're doing it 30 and 60 seconds at a time. But we think in the last 2 debates we've gotten a little bit more time to express our message. Plus the dominant theme of the last debate was regime change. Whether or not it's a good idea to topple Saddam Hussein, I think it was a bad idea. Whether it's a good idea to topple Gaddafi in Libya, I thought it was a bad idea. And then currently, whether it's a good idea to topple Assad. I think if you topple Assad, and there are many people still calling for this, Hillary Clinton wants to do it, Rubio wants to do it.
Yeah.
McCain and Graham want to do it. All of the neoconservatives think that we are going to spread freedom and democracy, and that when we topple Assad, Thomas Jefferson will rise from the ashes and they will elect Thomas Jefferson.
Well, that didn't happen in Libya. That hasn't happened in Egypt or Yemen or anywhere else in the Middle East.
In fact, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
In fact, what I think happens if you topple Assad, I think ISIS takes over Syria and will be in Damascus in short order.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good debate. We haven't had this debate in the Republican Party in a serious way, really in a long time. So I feel like we're making progress in the debates, not only personally, but intellectually. The libertarian ideas of less intervention in the Middle East, I think, are making progress.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of those libertarian ideas because, you know, you hear a lot of libertarians talk about your candidacy with some frustration. They wanted you to be the next great hope. A lot of people wanted you to have ideas that were essentially a continuation of your dad's. That can't happen. You are your own person. And now Gary Johnson announced that he's going to run as a libertarian. Why should libertarians support you over Gary?
Well, I don't think it's really a competition. You know, if you don't get a libertarian candidate in one of the major parties, you could try a third party.
Yeah.
Third parties haven't been very successful. I wish them well. But I think if there were a libertarian nominee, the best chance would be to be through one of the main 2 parties. So I think if you don't get a libertarian nominee and you're frustrated, it may be an avenue for people who are more libertarian. But I think they're sort of separate issues because there's not really a competition going on.
Yeah. All right, so I want to read you a quote from Gary. He says of you, unfortunately, Rand, in his quest to have one foot in the Libertarian camp and the other in the establishment Republican museum, has emerged with a vague mix of positions that is clearly not compelling. There is a price to be paid for selling out, and he is paying it. Did you sell out?
You know, I think that's really an unfortunate use of terms because what's he talking about? He didn't mention one issue. I'm the leading proponent of privacy in the Senate. I spoke for 10.5 hours for your right to be left alone, not to have the NSA collecting all of our records. I've been the leading opposition to the Syrian civil war, to participating in that. I've been the leading opponent of regime change. I've been the leading voice for reforming or getting rid of the war on drugs.
Yeah.
So libertarians who think, oh my goodness, it could be better, you know, it's never perfect unless you're the candidate, you know, and the only person you completely agree with is yourself. But libertarians shoot themselves in the foot if they want to nitpick and attack each other. I don't have any attack for Gary Johnson, nor do I see him as any kind of a threat or a competition. But I think it's a mistake for libertarians to get in a circular firing squad, particularly when there's not enough of us as it is.
All right. Well, Senator Paul, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
We will be watching you certainly in the debate next week. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Very good.